Welcome back. My next guest is a science major from the University of Western Kentucky in Bowling Green, and according to his research, it can be proven scientifically that God spoke the world into existence, and that the Genesis account of creation is entirely compatible with scientific theory. Samuel Hunt has been with us before, and we're happy to have him on board again. Welcome back to News Talk 1010 CFRB and the Richard Syrett Show, Samuel.
Thank you very much.
You are still a science major at University of Western Kentucky?
Yes, sir. Actually, switched to health science, as a matter of fact.
You have?
Yes.
Now, your work has caused quite a stir. How is it that what year are you in at the University of Western Kentucky?
I'm a senior.
A senior?
Yes, sir.
How did you get started on this road that has led to a book? Is it? My Latin is pretty poor. Is it Episteme Scientia?
Episteme Scientia.
Episteme Scientia.
Yes, sir.
The law of all that is. That's the translation, correct?
Yeah. Well, actually, episteme literally means, in my own words, sort of a paradigm, creation of a new paradigm that needs to be looked at, and scientia is science. So, and episteme is kind of, it's just a word for knowledge. It's actually, I believe, a Greek word. And scientia, I believe, is actually a Latin word. So it kind of combined two different.
All right, my wife is Greek. She's going to kill me for not knowing that.
Well, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's right. I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Okay, and you're convinced that within the pages of that book you have proven conclusively that the Genesis account of creation is correct and can be proven scientifically.
Absolutely, and I started this proof, writing this, and it was originally a thesis for a class. I did extracurricular to the class itself. I just had this inspiration, a major revelation that actually comes from, and I asked my professor, I said, what if we could prove, or science could show, that everything in the universe comes down to sound waves, and that everything, the aboriginal principle of everything in the universe came forth from sound. And he said nobody had ever done that before. And I said, wouldn't that essentially prove the Genesis record true, because every action in Genesis is, and God said, or he literally spoke creation into existence.
God said, let there be light. God said, let there be, yes, exactly. Okay.
Stars, planets, the firmament, let the grass come forth, and the animals, and then the humans. So insects and animals and humans. So, which is kind of funny, because evolution says the same process. Through the evolutionary process, they say, insects, animals, humans, plants first, then the insects, animals, humans, then, bacteria and stuff came before all that. And, it basically follows the same process of Genesis. The only difference is that evolution is, of course, stuck with the presupposition that there is no God and that everything happened through natural causes. And the Genesis record says there is a God who created all things through this massive amount of intelligence. And that's basically what my book shows. It pretty much starts with that supposition. Well, what if we could say everything comes down to sound? Is that possible? And then I go through the book, starting with that presupposition, and show, actually, that for the past 450 years, science has been saying the same thing experimentally and through data and everything else. So
you're saying that actually, there are currently several documented laboratory experiments that actually portray the events in Genesis. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Actually, the first one I begin with in the book is sonoluminescence, which literally means light from sound.
Light from sound.
So the very first process in Genesis is that God spoke light into existence. That's the very first substance, if you can say that, of light that was created. And so now we can literally reproduce this in a laboratory. And it's been done and independently confirmed over and over again, and they're looking to expand these experiments and to see what else they can derive from this phenomenon. So it's actually opened up a whole new branch of scientific exploration. It's pretty cool.
Well, as a layman, explain to me in layman's terms how, explain a little bit about this experiment that demonstrated how sound could, in effect, create light.
Well, basically, you trap a bubble in a flask of some liquid, and it can be water, it can be sulfuric acid, it can be a whole bunch of different kinds of liquids or liquid substance. Also, when you trap the bubble, you send a sonic wave, and the sonic wave makes the bubble vibrate, and it actually expands and contracts 30,000 times per second. And at the very last contraction, it emits photons. And actually, they've produced plasmas now from this experiment, which is very significant because that's basically what I said, stars, how God created the stars in heaven, because we see the same plasma emitted from stars in the universe, and it's not, I mean, you don't need fusion reactions to describe stars anymore. You can use the process of sonoluminescence as stated in Genesis, so it's pretty cool stuff. So
when you send a sonic signal into these bubbles, it causes the bubbles to collapse, and they release photons, and that creates light.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, I understand that what you just described actually aligns with one of the passages in Genesis.
It aligns perfectly with verse 2, I believe it is. So, and there, it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Verse 1, verse 2 says, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And it describes the deep as waters and stuff in the second verse. In the third verse it says, and God said, let there be light. And then he separated the light from the darkness. So that is exactly the process that has been reproduced in laboratories all over the world ever since 1943. So.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. Also, there's a Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 and 3. The Holy Spirit moved upon the face of the deep, which generally is considered water, as you say, and said, let there be light. And if you look at, you've sort of described the Holy Spirit as being a magnetic field. So if that magnetic field moving across the water, injecting this sonic signal into the bubbles, and they release protons, creating light. So there it is, aligning with Genesis. Fascinating. Listen, let's get some input from our listeners on this. What do you make of what my guest Samuel Hunt is saying? A science major, now a health sciences major at the University of Western Kentucky, and believes that his research proves conclusively that God spoke the world into existence. He's got the scientific documentation, he says, that offers evidence of the biblical account of creation in Genesis. The Richard Syrett Show, back with more in a moment here on News Talk 1010 CFRB.